My name is Zanneta. I'm super duper excited to be here with y'all today. A little bit about me. I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, on the south side, of Chicago. I'm a product of Chicago public schools. I did spend some time in private schools, but most of the years were in CPS. And this is my first time here. And I'm super duper excited. Thank you. And so the name of my project is Freedom Dreaming, Critical Thought Through Imagination. So before we do something, I do want us to take a moment to just kind of reset ourselves. Like we're here obviously for like exchanging what we've done and to celebrate, but I also kind of want us to refocus and make sure that we're also not just engaging this as intellectuals or as Y&I fellows, but also as like human beings who are here to take in people's stories and experiences. And so I want to start with this affirmation. Black folks have always and will always overcome the oppressive forces that seek to render us broken and bowed. This is reflected in the joy of my ancestors that sparkles and shines, and my song, and my smile, and the fabric of my very being. So let's just reflect on that. Yes. All right. So thank you. So I had the privilege of participating in the YNI, specifically in a seminar that focused on the history of Black literacy in America. This seminar explored how Black Americans have historically fought for and valued education, often as a means of liberation. If I had to describe Rod's seminar in 3 words, it would be intentionality, storytelling, and care. When I say intentionality, I'm talking about the way that he designed this process for us. Everything was very scaffolded. When he began, it's like, hey, let's introduce ways that we can think. Let's introduce ways that we can engage with materials versus us just saying, here, we're analyzing, we're doing it now. And so we talked about the 6 hats of thinking. And so things that would frame how we would interact with the text and materials that he gave us. It was also very personalized. Like our last day, he went and pulled out different things. Like, I think you guys will like this, and curated a whole selection, which I won't get to that story, but it was amazing. Also, the way in which he's like, well, this is what I had planned, but I'm gonna go to where you take this. It was also very thought-provoking. The storytelling. And like, I mean, even in the way that he would read some things to us, like adding in a Southern drawl if we were there, knowing when to inflect his voice, when to raise the volume, when to bring it down a little bit. And all that while sharing the different powerful narratives. We explored texts from people like Toni Morrison, books like Self-Taught, Malcolm X, and so many different things. And he provided lots of counter stories to the dominant narrative about the Black experience in America. And also connection. We were able to look at things that happened in the past, but see how that affects us today. Lastly, that other word was care. Okay, Rod was very humanizing. He often made sure that we were okay if it seemed like something was a little bit too heavy for us. He was very compassionate, and it really, for me, left a model of empathy and how we could use that in the classroom when we're engaging with our students. And that care was important because sometimes for me, as I was reading different things, doing different research, like it was hard. It's not new to me. I don't think it's new to any of us. But exploring the text in a deeper way definitely affected me sometimes, or made me feel like moments of despair and sadness, because we still see a lot of the effects from what took place in the past today. Which led me to freedom dreaming. This was one of the ways that I was able to push through by holding on to the dreams of freedom that were embedded in these narratives and the action that was taken to manifest these dreams into reality. As a collective and as individuals, enslaved people harnessed their imagination to invent creative ways to educate themselves when conventional methods were intentionally withheld. School rules became pits in the ground, church basements, and it soon transformed into HBCUs, which are historically Black colleges and universities, and even onward to spaces like TikTok, Instagram. I don't know if y'all heard #learn from TikTok. But the thing that really stuck with me is that no matter the journey, whenever adversity arose, we were able to push through, and it was met with imagination, fueled by that dream of liberation. And so through those different discussions with my fellows and also with guidance from Rod, I began to look deeper into that concept of freedom dreaming. Because being a Black woman, educated on the South Side of Chicago, and now an educator on the South Side of Chicago, I was super duper inspired by seeing the courageous acts of imagining a better world and actively working towards it. It was the brilliance, the resilience, the finesse that I saw from Black folks as they started to defy those different laws and societal norms. And that's a source of pride for me. And reading about the innovative strategies for the different ways to teach themselves literacy when it was withheld, I could see my dreams in those experiences. And since it connected with me, I wanted to connect that with my students. So cue up freedom dreaming. Just to give us the definition, freedom dreaming was coined by Dr. Robin D.G. Kelley. And freedom dreams are powerful visions that arise in response to a critical understanding of reality. My unit asked students to envision a better future by drawing on the past. They engaged with the concept of freedom dreaming by analyzing historical and current issues and creating solutions to reimagine their community. My learning objectives were, one, we need to be able to define freedom dreaming, but not just tell me what I told you, like what does this mean for you? In CPS, we have this thing like, what is the unexpected takeaway? And even though I might want you to get this, there's still more that you can pull from it that I haven't even thought of. And so I also wanted us to exercise critical thinking and problem-solving skills by addressing real-world issues and envisioning transformative change. And most importantly, I wanted them to be able to define and decide what is important to them. A common theme that came up in our seminar was, our kids don't value learning or literacy in the same way that we do. And it caused me to think, well, you're right, it's not the same way that we do. This doesn't mean that they don't value it, but what do they need? What do they value? And how does that translate into what they're learning in school? Some of the teaching strategies that I used, this was heavily inquiry-based learning. I wanted students to explore things through questioning versus me just telling you what it is. I wanted them to experience what freedom dreaming is so that they know you're already freedom dreamers. Even if you don't know this concept, even if you haven't thought that you're doing it intentionally, you are doing it. We often got into discussion and debate. My 6th grade class, y'all, they are very passionate even when they're wrong. And so I really wanted them to be able to like be wrong and be loud about it, but also listen in to what others are saying so that you can then grow from that. And like I brought what we did here at Yale to my 6th graders by incorporating a lot of Socratic seminar and discussions. Also, this was very interdisciplinary, and so students were invited to share their understanding of freedom dreams in their own way. This led to graphic designs, skits, music, and also written narratives, which you hear about from my student real soon. Some examples of some of the work they did. When we started this dream, I talked to them about things that were happening right now. So we looked at the Florida state standards. One of those standards states for social studies that teachers have to include in their teaching that slaves or enslaved people, benefited from slavery, and that they had to use their skills that they got from slavery so that they could be successful in life later. That's what they said, okay? So from that, we looked at explicit meanings and implicit meanings. And that's a strategy that we also did here in seminar. And I asked my students, like, how did this make you feel? Because again, they're already freedom dreamers. And so when they started to think about how it made them feel as 6th graders in Chicago, the question then became, well, what can you do as a 6th grade student in Chicago to affect change all the way in Florida? And what manifested from that was, oh, well, we can do petitions, we can start protests, we can do this. And so we're like, yeah, this is so cool. But then the next question became, well, why are we saying what we could do? Why don't we just do it? And so this is where we are right now. My students have began putting together presentations that they want to give to our principal because they actually want to plan this rally and connect with students in Florida. So here are some examples of some of the slides and things that they've put together, talking about the issue. They planned out skits. They're like, oh, we're gonna use, acting. We're gonna plan and pretend that there's a fight because we're fighting, right, for the rights. And when everybody comes up, then we're like, actually, this is about this. So ways to draw them in on different things. Super fun, different posters that we're putting around the school. I feel like I skipped something. Oh, just really quickly wanted to show some of the questions that I asked them. So one of the prompts was, if you could imagine a better world or a better community where everyone feels safe and supported, what would that look like? And then these are some of the responses, and they varied from like, it would be great, everybody would be happy, to maybe we would have less pollution. Maybe people would just get better, no violence, different things. So I'm gonna wrap it up, because I know I'm over time a little bit, but I want to end this leaving you with two quotes and a question. So take a moment to reflect as I read these. The first quote comes from Robin D.G. Kelley. "Without new visions, we don't know what to build, only what to knock down. We not only end up confused, rudderless, and cynical, but we forget that making a revolution is not a series of clever maneuvers and tactics, but a process that can and must transform us." My next quote comes from Octavia E. Butler. It's my favorite quote. "All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you." And my last question that I leave to you: what dreams do we need to nurture today so that we can build the world we want to see tomorrow? Yeah.